There's a storm across the valley. The clouds are rolling in. The afternoon is heavy on your shoulders. There's a truck out on the 4-lane, a mile or more away. The whining of his wheels just makes it colder.
Welcome to Community Forum. My name is Priscilla Almquist-Olson, your host. Today is Wednesday, November 18th, 2020. We're still in COVID time, and so we're providing this interview via Zoom. And for those of you who want to see it again or you want to tell your friends about it, please go online at eastoncat.org. Click on series, go down to my site under Priscilla Almquist-Olson and click on Community Forum, and you can get this interview at your convenience. Okay, so it gives me a great deal of pleasure to welcome two very prominent and responsible citizens of Easton who have very responsible jobs. And I want you to welcome everyone, Andrea, and I'll say this in German, Langhausen, nein, Langhauser, which means longhouse, a person who lives in a longhouse, actually, and Bridget Lawrence-Meigs. Did I pronounce that right?
It's Megs, Lawrence-Meigs. Yep.
Meigs. Okay, I was giving it the German pronunciation. Meigs. All right.
So,
So, Andrea and Bridget, welcome to Community Forum.
thank you.
Nice to have you here. All right. Now, Bridget is on the Agricultural Commission, and Andrea is the environmental planner. She's also the assistant planner for the town of Easton. And part of her responsibility is to advise both the Agricultural Commission and the Conservation Commission. So today we are delighted to have Bridget here, who is a agricultural commissioner. Welcome to you both. So Andrea, let's start with you. What is, in your opinion, the mission of the Agricultural Commission?
The Agriculture Commission was set up to both promote and support agriculture in town, as well as the local farmers, protect farmland, and encourage residents to be knowledgeable and connect with their local food source. So the commission can do that through a number of different ways. They both act to recommend, to give recommendations to Conservation Commission, Select Board, Planning Board. When Planning Board, for instance, when there's an open space subdivision that comes through that might have some farmland advantages, which actually happened recently, to help the Conservation Commission with leases that they have for their land that they have in agricultural use, to help the Select Board with supporting agricultural businesses in town, and then to promote farmland in general as properties become available and might be valuable.
So Bridget, do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think it's a very good description of our mission, and I think it's what's great about the AgCom is the people sitting on the AgCom bringing all their skills and different experiences to the table, and so we can really respond to issues with different perspectives.
Yes. Now, Bridget, how many commissioners are there?
So actively, there are four of us.
Four of you.
Five, oh, including me. Five, yes.
Yes, Andrea, you want to just jump in on that?
No, Bridget should definitely introduce herself. But the chairman of the Ag Commission is Eric Silverman. He lives out in Southeastern. He's a project manager at a Boston engineering consulting firm. He brings a lot of business and engineering skills to the table. We've got a recent resident, Grant West, who actually grew up in a farm in Arkansas and has his PhD in agriculture policy.
Wow.
So he's going to be a new asset to the board. Rory O'Dwyer is back on the Agriculture Commission. She owns a farm out on Washington Street that she's setting up, and she also works very closely with her family over at Langwater Farm. And Mike Luke is the fifth commissioner. He actually is a tenant farmer at Tufts Farm, which is leased by the Conservation Commission. But Bridget's here and she's got a great past. So let her go into a little more specifics on herself.
Okay, Bridget, tell us about your background.
Sure. So right now I run the farm at Stonehill College. I've been here for 10 years, running our farm, which is really focused on mission and producing food to address hunger in the community, and also acting as a classroom. And my background is really, I came to agriculture from more of a concern and interest in food security on an international scale, but then realized a lot of those same issues exist right here, not too far away, you know, from most of us, that hunger is an omnipresent issue. And so, yeah, so I actually I teach about sustainable agriculture, but I also teach about food justice. So what are the issues at play in our food system that lack justice, and how can we all as consumers work to improve our food system?
So do you have many students who are as interested in pursuing these goals as you are?
So we get a lot of students who come from all different interest areas and that end up at the farm, because we have volunteer hours when it's not COVID time. And so Friday afternoons, we'll get large groups of students who come over and help out at the farm. And one of my most recent graduates never would have said that she would have been interested in agriculture, but she started volunteering at the farm, and now she's working actually at my brother's keeper. Celia Dolan is working down there and really interested in food access as well. But we also have students who graduate and take what they learn, I think, is a systems thinking approach. So they aren't necessarily working in agriculture, but maybe they're working in design, or maybe they're working in an artist, but they're thinking about how do all the pieces fit together in a different way. I think because when you farm, you see that every action has a impact, be it good or bad. Too much water, too little water, the right seeds, the right amount of temperature, and that people are really important in that equation. That idea of, you know, many hands make light work is very clear when it's volunteer hours and you get a lot done in a short amount of time.
Yes, well, you know, I have a special connection with farm. That's Clock Barn, as we always called it. When I was a child, maybe 8, 10, 12, 14, I would go down to sheep pasture. I live on Seaver Street, so the Maple Street Extension. I'd take that path down to the sheep pasture, and I would go over to Clock Barn, and I would meet my cousin, Brenda Nagel. Her mother is first cousin of my mother. And we would go up in the hay loft and then jump down into the hay. We had so much fun. And I was so often, especially at Christmas and other holidays, I would be in the house. It's the first house just in front of the barn. And that was their house. And the reason that they were there was because Brenda's father, Joe Nagel, he was the head herdsman for the Ameses. And so he was the only person who could deliver the calves. And I remember 50s sometime, must have been 10 or so, they had a huge auction. And I couldn't believe the stud bulls were sold for thousands and thousands of dollars when people were making $3,000 a year. We have these cows or bulls that were so valuable, And so good. So the cows, the Guernsey cows from the Ames farm were considered very best in the entire nation.
Hmm.
So you are on sacred ground, my dear.
I know. Actually, I do feel that way about the land here. I do feel like this acre and a half there's something magical about it.
Yeah. Okay. So tell me, um, how have you, Andrea, how have you assisted the Agricultural Commission? I mean, you mentioned a few things. Can you give me a few more concrete examples? Maybe something that's happened lately? You have to unmute
There
yourself.
we go. The the Ag Commission is excellent at setting its own policy and what it chooses to work on. And right now we're in the process of putting together the plan for next year. But on a general basis, I just keep things running smoothly for them. We have the Ag Commission has been supporting a community garden that is located at Wheaton Farm, which is conservation land. But they have 21 plots at the community garden, and this year was a particularly good year for hosting that community resource. It took a little while to get up and running because of our COVID restrictions, but all 21 plots were being actively farmed, and the people who were there were so happy to be able to have a safe place to go and be out in the be outdoors working away from each other. But we put extra plots into production by limiting the number of actual gardeners there, so that we could create extra harvests that would go over to different vulnerable populations. And the Easton Housing Authority got a lot of extra property. Elderly neighbors of the gardeners got extra harvest. So it was took a little. Everything takes a little longer during these COVID times, but we managed to create a nice, safe space for them.
I know that's
gardeners.
wonderful place on the Wheaton farm. My good friend Ed Hands is one of the people who actually started that, I believe, when he was on the Agricultural Commission, and it's wonderful. He loves it, and I'm sure all the people who are lucky to get us a place are also very happy. So
we have this is the very first year we've had a waiting list. We there's almost always a plot available if you just take a look at keep an eye on the town crier. There's usually a notice that goes out in February or March. The second thing that the Ag Commission, a lot of my time for the Ag Commission is spent on, is keeping the year-round farmers market running. That's a 20-year operation that Ed Hands was a big part of bringing over from the Natural Resource Trust of Easton when they had started on their property. They were going to give it up, and through the Ag Commission, Ed Hands said, no, let's keep this running. It's run very much on a shoestring. No tax dollars go into it. Whatever revenue we generate from the vendors goes into paying the expenses. And it's one of the few year-round markets in the area. So it brings out a lot of, it provides a surface in the winter time to a much larger population just than Easton. But it's a good place for small farmers, backyard farmers, and to get their product out to people, especially in the summer. And we also have crafts people and who come as well.
Yes, I'm quite familiar. And Ross Moscato is doing a fabulous job as managing the market. And during the winter, it's held in my church, Holy Trinity Lutheran. So anyway, and I have missed the alpacas, so
They were
No,
there
see-
on Saturday at the
I
Depot
know.
Street.
I know, I wasn't able to make it. Okay, so what uh, resources do you have, Bridget, available to you besides Andrea?
What resources do we have available? The
Resources that you have available. For example, do you have any state uh, organizations, or do you go to, besides Andrea, if you need help in some area?
well, Andrea is definitely our organizer. We rely on Andrea for so many things, and she always says she doesn't do that much, which is crazy. She does a lot of organizing. I think that Andrea, provides the resources we need. I think what I said earlier, I guess I could apply to this, is that when we have an issue that arises, we usually talk it through and bring our different skills to the table, and usually someone has experience in that area and has a suggestion about where to get information if we don't have it right at our fingertips. And then we do have public meetings, so we make sure those meetings are known to the public through the town website, so that anyone could attend if they had interest in what we're talking about.
Mhm.
So I guess I would say that nothing comes to mind specifically. It's more just sort of that we work off of whatever the issue is and work together to resolve it.
Yeah,
We have used the resources. I can say that we've used the resources of the Southeast Mass Agricultural Partnership. Not as much this year with Bridget. Bridget may not recall this because it was in between her terms at the commission. But that's a wonderful nonprofit out of Southeast Mass that reaches up to Easton on occasion. Langwater is part of that partnership. So is our former commissioner Todd Sandstrom, and Fred Ames supports that organization as well. So they're a resource available to us, and of course the Department of Agriculture is always there. And right now, there's no more important organization to support our issues than the Mass Department of Public Health and the guidance they're providing.
Yeah. Now, Bridget, is there a way for the community to make suggestions? Would that be on your website? And if so, what is that address?
Andrea, I'll defer to you.
Yeah. I mean, the way the website's set up, you have my email is there, and so you can send me an email rather than the commissioners don't have public email addresses.
Okay.
So I get answers through the commission back.
Okay. So besides the farmers market and the community gardening plots, what are some of your other accomplishments that you have a great deal of pride in?
Great deal of pride.
Oh. I would say that since I rejoined, it's only been about a year, less than a year since I rejoined, that really that the market takes a significant amount of time and energy. And so all that work, Ross is there managing it and doing all that great work. But I think that does take a lot of time, just because it's so important to make food available, and also to give people the opportunity to get their product to people. But that also, I think the garden really is the big success this year, wouldn't you say, Andrea? I think,
yes.
And that we are really excited as a crew. We have this team of people with really diverse skills, and we want to be used as a resource for any sort of agriculture issue. There are a number of farms in Easton, and we are a right to farm community. And so how can we best support people who either are already farming or want to have access to land? And that I think one of our messages would just be to use us as a resource. And if you have questions, email Andrea. They are public meetings. We'd love to hear from people, hear about what matters to people, and then work together to sort of address those issues. If we can't address them, then we could point to a different commission or group to help.
That's wonderful. So you're assisting the farmers and agricultural people who already are in business and those who might like to dabble in it or do it full time. That's wonderful. What are your immediate concerns right now, maybe for now and for the future?
Food security.
Yeah, I would say food security has gotten worse with COVID-19. And so that's at the very top of the list. And I think access to land is always a big one for farmers. Land is very expensive. And so making sure people are aware of resources for how they can have access to land and is an important one. There are great organizations out there that are helping with that. And we can point people to those as well. So I think those are important issues. I mean, climate change is a huge issue that everyone can do something to address, and the way that we all can kind of plant a garden and drive less and use fewer resources. I think farmers are oftentimes stewards of the land and stewards of of resources, and so supporting agriculture in a big way is supporting climate mitigation and helping to mitigate climate change. So I think on a bigger scale there's always that issue that I think farmers are definitely impacted by and definitely can have practices to help with. And then on the small, on like kind of that more immediate impact is definitely food security. I know Langwater always donates any produce that they have, any excess, they're always delivering to Easton Food Pantry and My Brother's Keeper. I know Copper Kettle does that, and there are a couple of other farms in the area that are always doing that. And like Andrea said, the plots that were specifically put toward food access, doing more of that, I think is really important.
I'm happy to hear that you're concerned about the climate crisis. And I'm a member of the Easton Grange, and one of my ideas was to start planting trees. And I'm just wondering if maybe we could tie in with your expertise. Maybe farmers out there who would like a windbreak, on their property where we could plant trees. Just a thought.
I think that's a great idea that could be brought to the commission, and sort of talk about what kind of trees and what grows well in this environment. And definitely would have to, I think, cross paths with the Conservation Commission and town planning, just to kind of say, this is an initiative. And I love, the Greenbelt movement, for example, in East Africa. Wangari Maathai started that. So making those kinds of international movements happen right here. We want wonderful.
Yes. Now, Andrea, what do you think are the future challenges for you and as an advisor and also for the commission itself?
Well, when we spoke to food security, it sounds like kind of a conceptual topic, but Easton is very well positioned to have land in active agriculture, because I think we all learned that, you can't always depend on the transportation networks to bring food to your community. We're much better off having our own resources here. Having Langwater, has plans to, well, they're open, from May to December. That makes a big difference in getting product to, fresh product to people.
And then when they're not in business, aren't they at markets too? So I think year round they're getting food out there.
Yeah, they are. So I do think that keeping the emphasis on having a local food production is really important. It's a very strong feature of what Easton is as a community. We can thank the Ames for that, but also the Conservation Commission has upwards of 90 acres of land in active agricultural lease, whether it's haying or Tufts Farm over on Canton Street, and certainly there's the organic farm production down on Wheaton Farm. So I think that helps a lot. you speak about planting trees, and an issue that Conservation Commission has recognized through our climate adaptation plan that we just put together was the need to also keep our existing forests healthy, that they actually need to be maintained so that you have multiple ages of trees, so that they don't all blow down at the same time. You don't shade out the smaller ones, so that you have a really healthy forest stand in order to sequester the carbon that you
Yes,
need.
yes, and I know that the Conservation Commission has the authority to oversee the town lands that have devoted to conservation.
Right.
Yeah.
So active forestry is certainly an initiative that we've got going there. And the Conservation Commission does also need, we rely very heavily on volunteers to help us with maintenance of the trails.
Yeah.
So,
And
I spend like 50%, I spend probably 80% of my time doing permitting, but really the fun part of the job is keeping the trails open. And we have a great new Easton Trails interactive map available on our website where you can get to all the town trail maps that our Eagle Scout population has put together for us.
I have analyzed those and just figured out a route that I want to make, starting probably on Randall Street and going in that way and making a loop.
I
Yeah.
have run into people, when I was in the town forest, who had started at Borderland and were coming along through, to the lands behind the high school. There is a regional trail, the Bay Circuit Trail, that runs through Easton, and you can go from Duxbury all the way up around the city of Boston and to Ipswich.
Wow, that's amazing. I know that the Boy Scouts have been very helpful too in setting out wooden, what do you call it, wooden pathways over swampy areas, and so it's a real community effort. So that comes to my last question, and that is, how can the community assist the Agricultural Commission in achieving its goals? You have the whole community now listening.
Well, I guess one thing I was just thinking when we're talking about agriculture is, I think oftentimes I hear from new volunteers, they'll say, well, how do you do this? How does this farm? It's so much work. And, and everything I plant dies, and I just think anyone, you guys can do this. So, and one of the ways, again, that you can mitigate climate change, or you can address food security, or you can clean the air, is by planting things. And we actually, it's not the guide to end all guides, but it's pretty good. Celia, who now works at My Brother's Keeper, she created a guide on the farm's website called Growing Hope. It's a Growing Hope guide. Stonehill's website is just stonehill.edu/farm. And you can download this little guide, and it tells you how to start a garden. And I think, starting a garden, no matter how small, is really great, because it gives you also an insight into how much work it is to farm, but also how rewarding it is to farm, which can then make you want to support your farmers more, go to more farmers markets, maybe help volunteer at one. There's always something, that you need a little help with. And I think also just being kind of coming, if you have any interest, send them to Andrea, and we'll add them to our list of our work plan. We're actually making our work plan right now. So if you have ideas of things that you'd like to get out there, definitely send them our way.
So that we hope many of our viewers will do. And so, Andrea, do you have any last thoughts?
No, it's been wonderful working with Bridget and the fellow commissioners, because they are all really passionate about keeping Easton a rural community that provides food and open space for their citizens. And it's been wonderful for me to be working with such great dedicated commissioners.
And
Yeah.
we all love Andrea because she's very dedicated to the commission and makes sure that we stay organized. So
Makes you
we're very
stay
lucky to have
focused,
her.
I believe. Is that right? She makes you stay focused?
Yeah, yes, definitely.
Yeah. So this has been a wonderful exploration of what you do. And I know that you also probably work with the Conservation Preservation Commission. And for those listeners who don't know, I believe 38% of our town land is in conservation. That is remarkable. And it has to do with that 3% surcharge on your tax bill, which isn't very much. But it really goes a long way in keeping Easton rural and supporting the agricultural endeavors, and very, very important. So I'm sure all of you work together: Conservation Preservation Committee, Agricultural Commission, and the Conservation Commission. And Andrea is a guiding light, and we are so appreciative of you, Andrea, and all your resources that you bring to both the Agricultural Commission and the Conservation Commission. And Bridget, I can see you are passionate, and you are also so knowledgeable, and you have been there, done that, and you can share your knowledge, not just with the fellow commissioners, but also, I'm sure, with members of the community, if they want to have a chat with you. So email Andrea, look at the website and email Andrea. And what is the website, Andrea? What's the address?
Easton.mass. Town of Easton. How do I do it? I Google it. Easton.ma.us. If this for a timely little public service announcement, you brought up the Community Preservation Committee, and that is a wonderful source of resources dedicated directly to open space, affordable housing, historic resources protection, and recreation. There's a special town meeting on November 30th, and the community preservation articles will be up for a town vote. And the ones of particular interest are the Wheaton Farm barn needs some serious dollars to restore it, basically shore up the foundation of this significant structure, and also address the roof and re-siding issues. That's coming up for vote for funding on November 30th. So is town hall renovations. Beautiful, beautiful building provided by the one of the Ames family. Hard to maintain because it's a historic structure. So the town is lucky to have these funds from the community preservation during such difficult budget times, to have this money available to restore our historic structures. We don't have any land being requested this year, but there is the Unionville pickleball court is another action item up, and probably the affordable housing has an annual request for money. They've been wonderful. The Affordable Housing Trust has been wonderful in getting diversifying the housing stock here in Easton.
That's wonderful. I see that the house on Electric Ave is finished. And
Habitat for Humanity.
yeah, wonderful. We have a very caring community, and a community that supports all of these, what's the word, programs and endeavors, and it's just fabulous. And those of us who grew up here, very special interest, also the newcomers. They came here because of what we offer, all the open space, recreation, agriculture, and the sensitivity of the residents to promoting clean air, clean water, and open space, and preserving the historical buildings. and providing affordable housing rather. So I want to thank both of you for being my guests today, Andrea Langhauser and Bridget Lawrence-Meigs, and we appreciate your contributions. And so the listening public and the viewing public, hope you've enjoyed the show as much as we have in presenting it. And until next time, stay well, stay safe.